Hey y'all, it's Diana from the Dianaverse, and I am here today because it is a new moon. In fact, we have the new moon in Cancer this evening. If you want the exact time, you can probably look it up and Google it for your location. So the new moon is when the sun and the moon are together in the sky. You got the masculine and the feminine coming together. That's why they say you should plant your seeds of intention at the new moon, because it's the fertile time when the feminine and masculine energies come together. They're in the same place in the sky, from our point of view here on Earth anyway. So they're both in Cancer. The new moon is always in the sign that the sun is in on any given month, so it's an easy way to remember at least the new moon, right? So there's a really big emphasis on feminine topics. No doubt, right? Like, if you look at the world right now, there's a lot of these topics being addressed. So the moon reflects the sun's light. The sun is the masculine, and the moon is kind of reflecting that light um, back at us. At the new moon, you can't see the moon. We call that dark moon, right? Because from our vantage point here on Earth, you can't actually see that light being reflected. And so the feminine kind of has some of its own agency at this time of month. The moon in astrology, if you want to know some of the topics, can be the people in a country. It's the body, so it's the body of the country would be the people in the country. It's being in our feelings rather than being up in our head. Like the previous sign was Gemini, that's all about thinking. The moon is all about feeling. So it's good time to notice your reactions to things. Where do you feel it in your body? What is your intuition telling you? Although there's a caveat to that this month, or this week anyway, so I will talk about that a little later in the podcast. But there's a lot going on with the body of the country right now. We just had some kind of skitsy, from my point of view anyway, decisions by the Supreme Court. One, the states can't rule if you can have a gun and shoot people. That's okay, up to the states to figure that out. But I've got that backwards. It is the federal government's right to determine that you can carry the arms. The states can't determine that. I'm getting ahead of myself. And then the other decision was on overturning Roe versus Wade, where the states now have to decide what to do about abortion, and they say that the feds can't weigh in on that. Overturning a 50-year precedent. You can look at that either way. Cancer can be about the mother energy and the feminine, not just the moon, but it's in Cancer. So can be motherhood, it can be mothering, it can be sentimental. It's a complex sign. The sign is represented by the crab, which has a hard shell. It's protecting its soft insides. Cancer, people with strong Cancer in their charts have often become more nurturing because they've learned how to nurture themselves. So it can have sort of a harder exterior in that protection. If you're taking, let's say, for example, the Roe versus Wade debate, right? People on both sides can feel like they're being protective. Pro-life people are protecting unborn children. Children would be another thing that you would look at under Cancer. And then the other people on the other side who are pro-choice want to protect the mother and protect her life and her choices, maybe her health, her mental health, whatever is going on with that. So that can create a bit of a push-pull because both sides feel like they're doing something that's protective. Makes it complicated. So the moon is trining Saturn in Aquarius. That's kind of a supportive structure. Saturn is about structure. And Venus sorry, I have to look at what I wrote down. Venus is trining Pluto, so that's also supportive in working on the values that we want to proceed with. You've got the North Node conjunct Uranus in Taurus, which is the ruler of Venus. So it's like sudden shocks, sudden changes to moving towards the things that people want. You got both sides looking at that, are both kind of being supported and both trying to move forward with what they're doing. So that can be complicated, right? The moon is moving faster than the sun, so feminine will break away a little faster from what the sun is doing. And while the sun is also in Cancer, the sun is inherently kind of masculine. So it's just some push-pull stuff going on again. I know I mentioned this at the last full moon. Rather than being reactive and trying to do everything on your own, sometimes you might tap into that Saturn for whichever direction you're trying to go in, to find the structures that are already working on these issues and align with people who look at things the same way that you do, or where you can kind of plug into a system that's already existed rather than reinventing the wheel. We have Neptune. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about the moon moving faster is that I went out 2 days ago, and you won't see it probably either if you got up early this morning or tomorrow morning, but once the moon starts to reflect light back again, because it's moving faster than the sun, go out in the morning and look at it. It's in the morning here on the West Coast. It's really kind of exciting. I don't know if exciting is the right word, but it's really tangible to go out and see the actual planets that we're talking about. These aren't just abstract ideas. We've kind of placed our abstract ideas onto actual physical entities, but it's more tangible to go out and actually look at the stars and the moon and the sun and realize that these are the archetypes that we're talking about. They're real things that exist. So Neptune is retrograde. It just went retrograde, and it is sextiling Pluto, which is a somewhat harmonious aspect, but you got to look at who we're talking about here. Neptune is a planet of illusions. Pluto is kind of breaking down structures. It's like the furthest away from the sun, so it's about revolution and all kinds of things, but it's often associated with the patriarchy and that sort of structure. So you want to see who's whispering in your ear, right? So Neptune is the whisperer, can be feeding information. You could think about that as disinformation on the internet, or if someone gives you advice, you want to kind of think about that and see if that's really where you feel about it. Like, tune into your moon, your Cancer side, and have some discernment, I guess is what I'm saying, because Neptune can be can create illusions that sound good, but they're not always the most productive things. So you want to use discernment with that. Okay, so the really difficult aspect that we're dealing with now, that we've been moving into for a little bit, is Mars squaring Pluto. So that is not a nice aspect, because they're both kind of antagonistic or aggressive, I guess I should say, planets. Mars is our action. It gets us going. It's the masculine. That can be all right, but creating tension with Pluto, that can really be some fights. That can be violence. That can be things blowing up, domination. You may feel Sun squaring Jupiter also. That can be tension between the sun, ourselves, and Jupiter, which is like making everything bigger. So you can get stuck on our own reactions and blow things out of proportion. So if you're feeling like you're fighting to be right, or if you see someone else doing that, you might just take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, this is big energy that's going on. Maybe they're gonna calm down. Hopefully think about it yourself. Also, like, think things through and don't just fight to be right or because it's exciting and it's a big idea. You want to kind of um, slow down and not react. I talked about this the last several forecasts, I think, about acting and not reacting. So reacting is like a knee-jerk reaction. You say something off the top of your head, you might regret it later. Acting is you're like, oh, okay, this thing, but I'm going to think about it. I'm going to talk to some other people. I'm going to use my discernment. I'm going to see what groups I can align with. So it kind of slows you down before you actually do something about it. You could say that the Supreme Court, like, they acted faster than they said they were going to. That was a bit of a reaction in a way. So although they've been planning out overturning this decision for quite a number of years, ever since it got in there, they might not have thought out the best timing for coming down with this sort of decision or thought through what the consequences of that might be. So I can say my side, I'm pro-choice, but you might feel differently. So it's just something to consider as far as timing and stuff. If you're really interested in the astrology of Roe versus Wade, both when it was originally decided on and now, you could go listen to Anna Ortley. She did a really great job of walking all the way through the different aspects and things that were going on, and it's very interesting. So we've got Chiron kind of sandwiched between Mars and Jupiter. So you've got kind of the aggression moving forward on one side, and then like the big ideas on the other side. But you got Chiron sandwiched in between, so there could be some like sudden healing breakthroughs, but it's not going to be easy because we're dealing with Mars and just some really difficult aspects that are going on right now. But there is room for some real healing and some real conversations there. The plants I'm going to suggest this month, I really am into flower essences, and I would suggest picking out a flower essence and working with it, or even just this week, doesn't have to be all month, or until the full moon, 2 weeks, let's say. So I just did a whole bunch of flower essences. I did blackberry, I did wild rose, I did a summer solstice flower essence. I did one with grass because I suffer from really terrible allergies this time of year. So I decided to see if maybe a grass flower essence could help me shift that. Flower essences work on an energetic level. I sell them through my website, dianaverse.org. Or if you're really DIY and you want to make your own, I have detailed out the process on my Patreon page this last week. I made a post for that. So you can join my Patreon and you can learn how to make your own flower essences, which is really fun. The stone or crystal I'm suggesting this month, of course, is moonstone. We've got all this Cancer energy. It's both nurturing and protective. Also, trusting your intuition, tuning into the body. This week would be really good to see where we're at. Sometimes we're going, we're not really listening to our body. So stay hydrated, drink lots of water. It's a water sign, and hope you get through this new moon, can swim through it and thrive. Remember to come up for air occasionally, and till the full moon. All right, take care.